One of the most terrifying moments of my life was the first time I sat up after I was paralyzed. Train them. It's like scent training dogs. You put a little bit of yellow on them and they learn to like the yellow. I'm Kevin Mather, I'm 36 years old and I live in Denver, Colorado. I was a triathlete and I was out on a training ride on my bicycle with about 10 other guys. I was training for an Ironman at the time and I was in probably the best shape of my life. And so I had pulled away from the pack a bit. A driver not paying attention just ran me off the road at about 60, 65 miles an hour. So it wasn't a light hit. It was a hit and run and I just kind of came to, or was why am I laying on the ground? And there was a side view mirror of the truck sitting right next to me. I was like, oh, I got hit by a truck. This is not good. And then I just kind of had to wait for my friends to show up, because there was nobody around. That truck was gone. Got helicoptered to the hospital. Had a good week and a half in the ICU. And so yeah, I broke my my spinal cord and was paraplegic, instantly. From there, the fun really begins. Once they figure out that, okay, you're gonna live now, like, how do we teach you how to be a paraplegic in this world? So I'm like, you're laying in the bed and you're just like, oh, this is fine, it's not that bad. But then you sit up and you realize that all your balance is just gone. You have no sense of, even me sitting on my butt, like I don't feel my butt, I don't feel the little pressure here versus here. And so everything was just drastically hard. And so I went to rehab, spent, 2.5 months there. I had also broken my shoulder, and so, had other challenges that I was getting around. And it's like, okay, how do we function? How do we do this? And so, it's like learning how to transfer in and out of a wheelchair. When I first got injured, it's like, that's really depressing. Your life just went from, being super active physically. You got to make the choice, right? I don't want this to be my life. It's like, I don't want to be paralyzed. I was doing just fine running around. You're gonna have a great comeback right now. I feel it. But this is now my life. And so what am I gonna do with this? It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna figure it out as quick as I can so I can get back to doing the fun things that I love to do, because I know I can still do them. One of my buddies challenged me. He's like, hey, why don't you go do Ironman next year? I said, I don't think I could do that yet. And then it kind of just stuck in my head, and I just started riding my bike a ton. And then I was like, I can do this. I was like, I better learn how to swim and push a race chair real quick. That was one of the best days of my life, though. I mean, talk about an accomplishment and something I had dreamt of doing, and do it and beat over 500 able-bodied athletes out of a 2,000 person field, right? And so I'm like, yeah, life's still okay. We're still having a blast. Still can work hard, have fun.
Muy bien.
I've been shooting archery for about 2.5 years. When I was volunteering at a hospital that's a rehab facility, and I'm mentoring newly injured people, and one of my buddies was also mentoring. He's like, hey, I've got my bow in my truck. I'm gonna go shoot some arrows at this range that's like 3 miles away. I was like, yeah, that sounds like a blast. Got my little wooden recurve bow from the rental from the shop, and just start shooting. And I wasn't horrible at it. My buddy's like, wow, you're pretty good. He's sitting there with his compound, like drilling the tight little wad, and and I think I'm doing horrible, but he's like, no, like your first day and they're all on paper at 18 meters. He's like, that's pretty good. Like, you should do this maybe. That's 10. And so then it was just kind of a thing. I'd shoot with him. I was thinking about getting serious and buying my own, or actually bought my own used bow and started going down the road. And then I broke my finger coming down some stairs on my left hand, on my draw hand. So then I was like, well, that just put a stop to that idea. I was actually ski racing at the time. That was my big sport in my life. I was trying to be a two-sport athlete at that point, and I had told my coach, my archery coach, I said, if I make the world champs team, I'll quit ski racing. And I didn't think I had a chance. And then I made the team. I was like, well, darn it. I really like skiing, but I seem to be better at this at a lot faster rate. So we're gonna grab onto this and put all I got into it. And so I built this chair, and I actually took my mono ski bucket from when I was ski racing and just mounted it to a wheelchair. I'm like, that thing gives me pretty good support when I'm flying down the hill. I'm sure it'll be great for this, and just mounted it on. Have a better backrest now, have a bit more support here, so I can actually sit a little more upright in a more proper position. Yeah, so my bow, to work around my body, right? One of my coaches has always said, you gotta shoot the body you have, right? And whether that's trying to get chest clearance or whether that's trying to get wheelchair clearance, you always gotta figure it out, right? So now I shoot a long limb, shooting a 70-inch bow, which is more common with somebody with my draw length. And I've found that's become, more forgiving and just hits the middle a lot more often.
Kevin is new to the team.
He is. Rumor has it, I don't know how substantiated it is, that he's only been shooting for about 6 months.
Wow.
He was a competitive skier before that.
For my para team status, we just go off the qualification scores. They take all of our quals that we've shot throughout the year, and then they take that average, and that's how you get your para USAT team status. So some of the teams I've been on, the first one was that World Champs team, and we got to go to Beijing, and with Michael Lukow and Timothy Palumbo, that was like
Wow.
my first experience, right? My first, I just go to the biggest, para tournament besides the Paralympics. This is my first go, and I'm just like, yeah. So my first World Championships, we take home a silver, and here, Michael and Timmy are like, this is the best I've ever done at World Champs. I'm like, yeah, guys, this is the best I've ever done at World Champs, and they're just like, oh, shut up. And then I won Dubai. I took gold there. I shot against the guy who was ranked first in the world at that point, who had taken silver at Rio, and so that was great for me. And that's when the mental game started to become a real thing in my life. And I was like, okay, because up to that point nobody knew who I was, and still, I'm still nobody, just a guy shooting a bow, right?
Ho-ho! Kevin!
But at that point, it's like, okay, I just beat this guy who's at the top of the totem pole. People are gonna start noticing, and that pressure of wanting to win when you've never done it before is nothing compared to when you show up and people are like, oh yeah, that guy's gonna win. I can only imagine how Brady manages to keep his head straight, where it's like, everybody here thinks you're gonna win, and it's like, that's a lot. That's a different kind of pressure, and it's a lot. Yeah, the open category, it's, as far as the bows are concerned and the equipment, we are shooting the same rules as the senior men. It's all, we have no adaptive equipment on the bow. We, have no release aids or anything like that. It's the same bow anybody else shoots.
Oh, thank you. That was a great one arrow.
In open class, I can come up and sign up as a senior archer and compete on the line with able-bodied athletes.
Hi.
Step on up. And I've done so down in the Mexican Grand Prix in 2017. I shot down there and, went to the semifinals. And I'm sitting here and these guys are like, who's this guy in his wheelchair just sending athletes home? I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of fun, isn't it? I believe that's 10. This is my second Arizona Cup. I didn't make it in 2017 because I hadn't started shooting archery yet. And then I shot it last year in 2018, and here I actually earned my actual USAT team spot here. Shot my first over 600 score here. And then, here I am, my second year, and hopefully we'll shoot even better score. It's like, yeah, I've only been shooting my bow this year, I think, beginning of March or something. So, if I have a year where I don't go to the hospital over the winter, I'm gonna crush it. It's a blast, and that's why I love archery so much, because so many sports, you know, that's like, oh, we've got the special division over here, and it's like, no, archery, it's like we're all the archery family, and we're all having fun, and we're all hunting that 10 ring.
It doesn't right now, but it's shooting real well, so I don't want to change it.
What are my goals? Where have I set those for this year, for next year, for 10 years, and how am I going to start ticking off the marks, getting to the ultimate goal, right? I believe my mindset, how I've approached other sports in my past, how I've approached dealing with becoming paralyzed, how I've approached any challenges thrown at me in life, I try to focus on solutions. And if you focus on solutions, it's a lot easier to not get stuck in a problem. You know, it's been a fun adventure, to say the least.